Hi, Jim.
Hi, Dave. How are you?
Good. Jim, tell us your full name and the various roles you play. You play a lot of roles in the community, so I'm not sure how you'd like to introduce yourself here, but tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, my full name is Jim Morasco, and officially at CASAC-T, I'm a substance abuse specialist, which means I work out at the Department of Social Services with the Child Protection Unit, and I go out on cases that have to do with drugs and alcohol and try to get people into the agency or into the whatever services they need in the community and help support them through the process. I'm also an ordained minister in the American Baptist tradition, and at this point I don't have a church, but what I do is I fill in various churches in the area and try to do my pastoral work any way I can.
Well, I really appreciate your responding to my request for someone to talk about gratitude in recovery.
You're welcome.
I sent out an email to all our staff and I say, hey, anybody that's got any ideas about this, I'd love to talk to. And you very graciously responded and said, hey, I'm up for this if you are. So I appreciate your being willing to talk with us about this today. So let me just ask you in a general way, what role do you think gratitude plays in recovery?
Well, I think gratitude is if you want to say, it's an attitude that you develop as you're becoming sober, at least in my own experience. You become aware that other people are in your life and helping you to maintain your sobriety. And maybe even before that, they've been praying for you and maybe talking with you and trying to get you to understand how important it is. But when you're involved in the middle of an addiction, you don't always see that. And I think, at least in my own life, as I was becoming more aware that there were people out there helping me, praying for me, pulling for me, it just developed an attitude that I felt good about people trying to help me out, and I felt gratitude towards them, towards God, and a need to give back and maybe help them out. So I think gratitude is it's a back and forth kind of thing.
Are you in recovery yourself?
Yes.
Yes.
It's been about 20 years.
So you have personal experience with this as well as a lot of experience helping others.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, sometimes us professionals, we kind of break recovery down into phase 1 recovery, phase 2 recovery. Phase 1 recovery, we ask people to give up their drug of choice, so they have to stop drinking, and usually there's a sense of deprivation that life is going to be tough now, it's not worth living, because they have to live it with abstinence, and so AA says take it one step at a time and all that kind of stuff, one day at a time, don't worry about tomorrow or next week or next year or 2 years from now, just do it a step at a time. But then we talk about phase 2 recovery, and the way I describe that to people is now we're talking about a lifestyle change. You've got to re-engineer your life and find pleasure and relaxation and a sense of well-being without chemicals. And it would seem to me that in that shift from phase 1 to phase 2, at some point, people, if they're going to be successful, have to develop more of a sense of appreciation and gratitude for the positive things in their life. Now, I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but I'm curious about what thoughts you might have about that.
Well, it's like anything else. It's not so black and white. We break it down into phases because it's an easy way to describe it. But I think, like anything else in life, you're back and forth, in and out of the phases. It's a process, like most things in life. And my own experience is that or at least that I developed this, not even consciously at times, this feeling of overwhelming gratitude just to be alive. You hear about people just thanking God for everything they have and every day, and that's what it's about. It's becoming aware of all that. I have friends, Native American friends that you know of. And they talk about when they were little, they were taught this as part of their growing up. A friend of mine who when he got in trouble, he'd have to go cut a switch and bring it into his father so his father would use it on him. But he had to thank the tree for giving him the switch, because everything comes from God, including the switch that he was being used to discipline him.
Wow.
And that, to me, is gratitude in the nth degree.
Yeah.
Living your life that way.
Yeah.
So again, it's looking at it's a different lens on the world. Looking at everything with gratitude just changes the way you look at everything in the world. Like that switch.
Right.
It's not just a tree branch anymore.
Right.
So
I guess throw you a curveball here.
Okay.
What would you say about the relationship between gratitude and surrender? You know, I know step one recovery has to do with realizing that your life is unmanageable and turning it over to a higher power.
right.
And Galen Guenrich, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister at All Souls in New York City, talks about our radical dependence. That we each come into this world totally dependent on our caretakers for nurturing our life, and probably at the end of our life we will wind up being dependent too.
The cycle of life, yeah.
And in the meantime, you know, between our birth and our death, we have this illusion that we're self-sufficient and independent and can stand on our own 2 feet. And yet when you step back from that, you realize that we're all interdependent, aren't we?
And I think it's a cultural influence. If you look at other cultures that are more community-oriented, I think the realization is there that they depend on each other.
Right.
I think it's the Western culture that teaches that we're independent, that we don't need anybody, that we're, especially men,
Right.
you know, we don't share our thoughts and our feelings. That's a Western cultural
Right.
phenomenon, I think.
Part of surrender is you have to give up your ego.
Well, I think that's the most difficult part. The most difficult part, yeah.
And when you do that, then you become very grateful and appreciative of all the things you have in your life that make your life possible.
Gee, maybe it's not just me, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe there are other people that can help me out, and I can help them out. And life's a lot easier when you do that, you know?
Now, I know you were telling me you're writing a book.
Right.
Tell us about your book, Jim.
Well, I'm writing a book on my own recovery and my spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it begins with my childhood and up until even things that I'm doing at work here with people. So it talks about the people that helped me. It talks about a lot of growth, a lot of anger, and overcoming that anger, and you know all the things that goes into finding your way in this world, I think. So that's basically what the book's about.
Do you have a tentative title?
Tentative title is From the Pew to the Pulpit, because I am an ordained minister.
Yes.
And I thought of the title sitting there one day as in the pew, listening to a pastor speaking, and I was thinking about my journey.
Right.
And that's where I came up with the title.
And really the theme is about the spirituality of recovery.
Right.
Yeah. Sounds like a wonderful book. When's it going to be?
Hopefully soon. I'm waiting for the contract to come in the mail now, so hopefully soon.
Good. What else do you have to share with us on this whole idea of gratitude?
I have a poem I would like to read.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
It's
it.
actually how I end my book. So.
All right, listen. Why don't we take a break? We'll be back in just a minute, and we'll hear Jim Morasco's poem on recovery. Stay with us.